Catch up quick on this week's top stories with Debrief.
A flat tire in a war zone. Journalism behind the scenes.
The US launched airstrikes on Yemen earlier this month, shooting down drones and striking targets across the country.
We now know these strikes on Yemen were organised by the world's most sophisticated military using this, an everyday messaging app called Signal.
The White House has admitted a journalist was included in a messaging group which shared plans to strike Yemen before the attack took place.
This kind of operation has a security clearance known in official speak as above top secret.
The Democrats are not going to let this one go that easily.
Not at all, Jaffa. This is the most embarrassing moment of this new administration so far.
You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
This is Tulsi Gabbard, director of the US National Security Agency.
Senator, I'm not going to get into this.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text.
President Trump has downplayed the issue, calling it a glitch, and praised, not sacked, his national security advisor, Mike Waltz. Someone who was in the group was the director of the CIA.
National security advisor invited him to join the signal thread. Everybody in America knows that. Does the CIA director not know that?
I've seen conflicting reports about who added the reporter.
The pressure is mounting, particularly on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was responsible for the most explicit details in the chat.
Nobody's texting more plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing.
I think it's all a witch hunt, that's all. I think it's a witch hunt.
Goldberg, the journalist who was inadvertently added to the chat, released more contents after being labelled a sleazebag and a liar by Trump.
Officials often go to jail, lengthy jail sentences. I know people who have had serious problems for breaching these rules in the diplomatic, defense, and intelligence communities.
The UN has warned that time is running out in Gaza. The return to violence is having a serious impact on aid workers' efforts to prevent the risk of famine.
The World Food Programme, for its part, warns that hundreds of thousands of people are again at risk of severe hunger.
It has approximately 5,700 tons of food stocks left in Gaza.
What are people doing to find food?
They're relying on soup kitchens, on charities, on humanitarian agencies that are providing food, but the supplies are rapidly dwindling.
Residents of Gaza are preparing for Eid al-Fitr this year with heavy hearts, burdened by the ongoing conflict and deteriorating economic conditions.
Eid came at the worst time without life or joy. I just want to buy something for my daughter.
I cannot buy anything and will return empty-handed because prices are extremely high.
As the holy month of Ramadan draws to an end, people here are pinning their hopes on a ceasefire that would allow them to reclaim some sense of normality and celebrate the holiday.
Meanwhile, Israeli forces continue to drop bombs on the Strip, with overnight attacks killing 3 people in Gaza City and 2 in Rafah. Airstrikes also targeted civilian gatherings in Al-Nafaq Street in central Gaza City, killing 34 Palestinians. That was on Thursday alone.
At least 20 Palestinians killed on Friday. Women and children were amongst the victims as the death toll continues to rise after Israel broke the Gaza ceasefire.
10 days of witnessing, because the UN remains on the ground in Gaza, a callous disregard for human life and dignity.
Israel has carried out airstrikes in southern Lebanon. At least 1 person was killed and 18 others were injured, including 3 children. Israel's first such move since a November ceasefire that has been seriously disrupted over the past week.
Here's the news in brief, where we bring you even more top stories. On Friday, a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar, followed by another 6.4. The likely toll? In the thousands. Many are still believed to be under the rubble. The tremors brought several buildings crumbling down, wreaking widespread devastation across the country, with multiple reports of damaged infrastructure. The quake was so huge, it dropped a 30-story building in Thailand, with dozens of construction workers still trapped inside. Rescuers are searching for survivors. The disaster has left Myanmar's ruling military junta shaken as it declared a state of emergency and made a rare plea for international help. And the US is all over the news, this time smack in the middle of a deal between Ukraine and the Kremlin to keep ships safe in the Black Sea. Moscow met with Washington in Saudi Arabia to hash out the details. But while it led to a partial ceasefire, it only applied to the Black Sea itself. And both sides soon set about slinging accusations at each other about trying to derail it. What did Ukraine get? The pause in fighting over the sea. But Russia, with US help, got a bit of relief from its longtime sanctions squeeze, re-entering the world market for farm exports, lower insurance rates for trade by sea, and better access to ports and payment systems.
Or lifting any kind of sanctions until Russia will stop this war. And I think more pressure on it, more packages of sanctions. This is important. The second point, as you said, Kier, that new packages to strengthen Ukraine, and we heard of some of the leaders' new packages where we're thankful to all the leaders.
But the agreement has done little to slow Russia's wider war on Ukraine, with attacks over the week, including drone strikes on residential buildings and infrastructure in Dnipro and the country's second biggest city, Kharkiv. And in Africa, the nearly 2-year war behind the humanitarian nightmare in Sudan has taken a major turn. The nation's army has snatched the capital, Khartoum, back from the grips of the paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. Hundreds of Sudanese citizens cheered the turnaround as Army leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan declared the city RSF-free on his way into the presidential palace. It's a major military victory coming after the army retook Khartoum's airport and a weapons factory. But civilians, which have reportedly been targeted in attacks from both sides, and more than 12 million of which have been displaced, are desperate for the wider civil war to end. And we're still in Africa with another war between the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DRC, and the M23 rebels. The two have been fighting for years, but since January, M23 has taken it up several notches, seizing key towns and cities in the east, including the mining hubs of valuable minerals. Like coltan, used in smartphones and other electronics, the DRC is the second largest producer in the world. That's 40% of all supply, and most of that is now in rebel hands.
These workers here in Rubaya are carrying coltan, a valuable mineral found abundantly here in eastern DRC, and it's alleged to be central to the conflict here.
And now for a taste of our programs.
Mass protests erupted after the main opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, alleged widespread electoral fraud in the October ballot. Now, demonstrators across the country also expressed their discontent with the Frelimo party's 50-year rule.
Both the violence suffered by these young people who claim to be followers of finance or the people, but also, let's be honest, this is where the value of dialogue lies. There must be an end to all kind of violence inflicted on police officers, members of the Frelimo party, or anyone else who doesn't agree with us.
And on the part of the government, there is also realization that from an economic point of view, this stability is not going to let stability settle. So this is the reasons why I think there is a good chance it may work.
In a move that threatens to widen the global trade war, Trump announces new import taxes of 25% on foreign cars and car parts coming into the US. The tariffs are set to come into effect on April 2nd, a self-imposed deadline by the president to unveil fresh reciprocal tariffs against its trade partners. The European Union and Canada criticized the move and threatened countermeasures.
There are difficult debates between Europe and America over trade and tariffs. And there are calls to revive ideas of European autonomy. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not the time to go it alone. Not for Europe or North America. The global security challenges are too great for any of us to face on our own.
Regular people across the world are trying to use the legal system to hold their governments accountable for the chaos and destruction that environmental degradation and rising temperatures bring. This story is about a group of 21, many from the US state of Oregon. For nearly a decade, they've been using a widely used argument that their leaders' role in climate change violates their constitutional right to a healthy life. But while that argument has had some success elsewhere.
Hi, I'm Jordy Fisher. I'm a plaintiff in Helvey State of Montana. And I just got back from a run and found out that the ruling has come out for our case. The State Supreme Court of Montana has ruled in favor of us.
An absolutely incredible feeling.
This case we're currently discussing was lost in late March, when the US Supreme Court declined to hear the group of 21's petition. Meanwhile, young people carry with them a heavy burden as they consider a dim future because of foreseeable dark clouds ahead. Young people in certain areas are especially stressed. Regions that have been seeing more heat waves, drought and storms.
The Crescent Stars are now in the top tier of the Nations League, and they got there with some of their most consistent football in recent memory.
Well, Turkey's Nations League campaign has been relatively impressive. After reaching the last 8 at Euro 2024, they carried on that momentum, but then a shock loss to Montenegro robbed them of top spot in Group 4. Turkey had to go into the playoff against Hungary, but had 4 months in which to regroup. And the brand of football they played, and without a recognised striker, helped them beat the Hungarians home and away for the first time since 2007. And Turkey's next target is qualifying for the World Cup for the first time since 2002.
They've gone from a team struggling to compete to a team always competing. That's what Montella has very smartly done, used the strong suit of Turkey, and it's proved quite fruitful.
Panathinaikos has recently been lackluster in the EuroLeague, finishing in the bottom third for 3 straight seasons. But now they're hoping Ergin Ataman can fix that. It's the first time a Turkish coach will be at the helm of a Greek squad. The 57-year-old will have the task of bringing back European glory for the Athens side, as Panathinaikos last won the EuroLeague back in 2011 with Željko Obradović.
Everybody asks me why you are going to Panathinaikos. They were in the last years in the very bad positions in the EuroLeague, but every time I watch in the YouTube the Oaxaca atmosphere from the past years, it was gave me a lot of emotions.